Hello everybody, my name is Rebecca and this is the second video presentation for the semester. I apologize in advance about my voice because I'm just still kind of sick but still getting over it. So this is the result of my voice as of right now. Um, but just to begin, I decided to talk about James Madison for this video presentation. He was an American statesman that was born on March 16th, 1751, and died June 28th, 1836. He was a Democrat Republican that became president in 1808 and served 2 terms. Sorry. During his life, he owned more than 3,000 acres of land and unfortunately dozens of slaves. And during this time, or during his life, he was married to Lady Dolly Madison. He could be sorry. He could be remembered for being Thomas Jefferson's Secretary of State while he was president before he served his own terms. Madison was an influential figure in county affairs, and as we learned this week, he's one of our founding fathers that helped in the contribution to the Constitution and also played a huge role at the Constitutional Convention. During his time at this convention, he had the role of Chief Recorder of Information. So essentially, he had all the notes and information that was discussed between the representatives. And even though he's memorable for many different aspects in his life between president and everything else, I have decided to discuss his time in the Constitutional Convention, as well as his contribution to the Constitution and how he helped create the Bill of Rights. And I might cough into it. I apologize. This week and last week was a very influential week for us because we had the opportunity to learn about the men that had fought for our independence. I think it was very interesting to learn about it again as an adult because it gives us the chance to comprehend it better than when we were younger first learning about it. It's something to me that really built the American spirit. These men fighting never gave up and fought for their lives because they believed in their country, and to me that's really powerful. I think America has obviously changed over the many years of different leaders, and society changing as a whole, with technology advancing and other things playing into effect. But something that hasn't died is the love that our Americans have for our country and how people continue to fight for their rights and freedom. To me, is something that makes our country great. I think it's easy to forget certain details about history when we learn about it when we're younger. So that's why I decided to pick James Madison for this video assignment, because he was one of the key players in helping America form its independence and create the Constitution that would protect our rights as a citizen. And I also wanted to learn more about him in the further research that you do for the video and during his time at the Constitutional Convention. Madison was one of the men that was at the convention. He was actually a representative from Virginia that met in Philadelphia in May of 1787 for this event. They decided to hold this convention because they needed all the states' participation in order to come to an agreement on fixing the current Articles of Confederation. But we soon figured out that instead of changing that, they decided to change it entirely. The convention was given the power to resolve important defects in the system of the federal government. They had 39 men who believed the document would balance the interests of the states. So they decided to come up with this new document that would address and find an agreement that would make all the states happy and not just the bigger ones with the high population. They wanted to find a compromise that would better all of them and not just the few big ones. The representatives kept disagreeing and bickering or the states kept disagreeing and bickering, which made it complicated for this Constitution become law because they needed at least 2/3 of the 13 states to approve and ratify this in order for it to happen. So they came up with a conclusion that stated representation for the states is going to be made up of population, and the Senate will be equal, bringing 2 senators from each state. This was the best way that they could compromise, trying to make them all happy. Madison then begins his journey to make amendments that would better the citizens and their natural rights. So when learning about the material this week, I found Madison to be one of the most interesting characters because he was the man that took the 85 essays and the Federalist Papers and helped create amendments to the Constitution 2 years after it was created. These amendments were called the Bill of Rights, which everybody should know. This is something that made Madison the father of the Constitution. Something I found interesting from the video in this past discussion board, that could be applied to this lesson, is how many people, even Madison weren't satisfied they didn't feel satisfied from the Bill of Rights. He He intended for these Bill of Rights to guarantee our individual rights as a citizen, and he knew that these were natural rights that we were entitled to have, such as freedom of speech and religion and press. He was afraid that in the creation of the Bill of Rights, however, he thought that it would be used in unconstitutional ways by Congress, and since he knew these were natural rights, he thought that Congress would try and restrict individuals from having other natural rights as citizens and only restricting them to what was in the Bill of Rights. Something to note during the creation of the Bill of Rights is how Madison wrote multiple essays and letters regarding the separation of church and state, this is one of the main reasons that he decided to form the Bill of Rights. So I actually found a couple quotes from one of the letters that he made during this time, and it was titled, "What God Has Put Asunder." The experience of the United States is a happy disproof of the error so long rooted in the unenlightened minds of well-meaning Christians, as well as in the corrupt hearts of persecuting asperse that without legal incorporation of religious and civil polity, neither could be supported. A mutual independence is found most friendly to practical religion, to social harmony, and to political prosperity. That was a letter to F.L. Schaeffer, December 3rd, 1821. Something that I took from this part was to practice religion, to social harmony and political prosperity. To me, Madison was saying that everybody is entitled to have a religion and practice it peacefully without causing harm to anyone. And so I just really liked that. So a couple other quotes I found from the same essay, just from different sections, were teaching the world and others from no intermeddling with religion. And those started as, "We are teaching the world the great truth that governments do better without kings and nobles than with them. The merit will be doubled by the other lesson that religion flourishes in great purity without the aid of a government." That was a letter to Edward Livingston, July 10th, 1822. And then the other article was, "No intermeddling with religion," and that is, "There is not a shadow of right in the general government to intermeddle with religion. Its least interference with it would be most flagrant aspiration. I can appeal to my uniform conduct on this subject, that I have warmly supported religious freedom." That was a journal something from his journal dated June 12, 1788. So those were just experts that I liked because I think that they really pull out how passionate he was for the people to be able to have religious freedom from the imposition of government. So because Madison fought for the separation of church and state, we're able to have this religious freedom that we have today. Something else that Madison did that was tied into the Constitutional Convention would be Madison's journey with the essays called the Federalist Papers. He started this journey by joining up with Alexander Hamilton and John Jay to discuss these essays to the public to help change the opinions of ratification. So between Hamilton writing 50 of the essays, and Madison writing fewer than 20, these were able to argue that private rights and public good would be protected in this document. And so from the Federalist Papers, people were able to feel more comfortable with the ratification. To close my video presentation, I would finalize with how Madison helped shape our world the way it is today. He seems like a man that fought for the people and wanted individuals to keep their God-given rights. This week was very informative in talking about Madison and the other men that helped fight for our independence. These men fought for our freedom. Madison and the other delegates fought for equality between the states, which is how we are able to do many of the activities we have today. We have natural rights that will never be taken from us because of the father of the Constitution, James Madison, and the other men that fought for our rights. We are a country that is considered a melting pot with all different types of people that makes us unique. And because of our founding fathers, we're able to enjoy more religious freedom than most countries. And we're able to talk bad about our government freely unless anyone is physically being hurt or a group of people is being hurt. So the moment you get violent, it's a bad thing. This is a part of history that most people claim to remember learning about, but I think some forget what these men went through and what men still go through today in order to keep our freedom. I'm glad I was able to relearn about the Constitution this week so I can express my thanks to those who have fought for us and so I can reiterate the information to all of you. So that is my paper or my script, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you. Sorry about the coughing.